let's cover what's been going on with Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. Now, I made a video recently that was it wasn't that well received. I mean, it's one of my highest performing videos, but not everyone was a fan of it, to say the least. But the controversy has continued in some form. Ben Shapiro has been on a couple of shows recently. I know he was on Piers Morgan, and Piers asked him about it.
You and your company have been at the center of a very high-profile one at the moment with Candace Owens, who's now left Daily Wire. Was she fired, or did she leave of her own volition?
I'm not going to speak to this topic, Piers.
At all?
At all.
You can't give me any insight into why she departed?
No hints, no nothing. I'm not going to speak to this.
Can I ask why?
I mean, you can ask.
No, I'm not. You can ask why you don't want to say anything.
Again, you can ask.
I'm only.
He's such a little shit. He's just like, yeah, you can ask, but I'm not gonna tell you. It's just, I mean, I kind of expected this behavior from him. He doesn't like letting his shit stink, as it were. And it's not a great look for him. He got he got shat on by Andrew Schulz, and we'll cover that. The fact that he isn't very open to talk about it. Like, I remember in my last video, I talked about, like, oh, she got fired because of, they claim it's anti-Semitic comments, but it's really just because she's pro-Palestine. Even though it's not exactly for the right reasons, but still, it's, they definitely didn't fire her because of that, but it's a little hard for them to be like, oh, I don't know why they just don't come out and say she's pro-Palestine. That's what we fired her. Maybe because it goes against the whole, like, free speech platform. They like to, say. But Ben, I believe, we'll watch this Dave Rubin clip when he was on Dave Rubin's show. Dave Rubin, former liberal, I'm pretty sure he identified himself on the left, but now he's just gone fully to the right because just irrelevancy, honestly. We'll watch this. I believe it's here he says, like, oh, I'm not gonna, keep someone on my show who I don't agree with, which is, like, fair, but when your whole side is, like, freedom of speech, shit like that, it obviously, is pretty ironic. It's so strange to see Dave and Ben on the same show, considering the fact that Dave Rubin, a couple years ago, 2021, he got in a lot of trouble with conservatives because Dave Rubin's gay. And he and his partner got a child. They adopted a kid. They had a kid. And, like, it created a lot of shitstorm for him, considering, he's a conservative. At that point, I believe he was firmly on the right, despite the fact that he had a good history being labeled as a progressive. But he got in a massive shitstorm, and I had to look it up. There's an article from Forbes. Apparently, Ben Shapiro was invited to the couple's anniversary party, and Ben literally wouldn't go just because Dave was gay. I don't know what Dave has done to get in the good graces again of Ben Shapiro. I think it might have just be, I don't know, maybe it was to talk about this. Maybe it's just kind of getting tired of what exactly is going on with this whole Candace Owens things. But he's the one, I think he'll say it's his boss, Jeremy Boring, whatever his fucking name is, that fired her, but I find it very hard to say that Ben didn't have a role to play in it.
As I saw you this week on Piers Morgan, he asked you repeatedly about Candace. You repeatedly basically said,
I won't talk about that. I'll say that here too.
Yeah, and that's fine. And, it's interesting because we all sort of came up together to different extents, and we've all done a million things together.
Which is funny considering the fact that Dave came up on the opposite side. So just that right there very much feels like he's just trying to attach himself to Shapiro. Just be like, oh yeah, we all came up together. Just like, he's really trying to get some hedgeway back in the right-wing sphere.
Public events and networks and all of those things.
It seems to me that this is probably the most anyone's talked about him for probably since that controversy with his partner. But, like, even then, even after seeing all the heinous shit that people on his side sent his way, he was still like, nah, I'm still gonna try to grit my way into this.
She's now a free agent. She happened to end up on Locals, which I created, and we're a platform, not a publisher that you guys are. Can you at least talk to just sort of just sort of where it's at now. She's not with you. She's free.
She's free to do
and-
whatever she wants to do, to be wherever she wants to be. And the difference between a publisher like the Daily Wire and a platform like Locals is obviously that a platform should have a very broad range of speech that it allows, including speech that maybe even the creators don't believe is inside what they would consider to be the Overton window. It's a very different thing than direct subsidization of particular opinions. So the Daily Wire would not have a host, would not pay a host who was staunchly pro-abortion. They would have no obligation to pay a host who is staunchly pro-abortion. And so when it comes to the hosts on the Daily Wire, obviously everyone is able to say what they want. Nobody ever comes to me and says, you can't say X. Nobody ever says that to Walsh, and no one ever said that to Candace. But the reality is that there is an Overton window at the Daily Wire. Obviously, there was a non-meeting of the minds. That's pretty much all I can say on this. And
I find that pretty hard to believe that no one went up to her and said, you can't say X, Y, Z. I mean, they still published it. So that's the thing. Like, they still published everything she said. But at the same time, I find that hard to believe that there wasn't someone who was just, maybe not directly, but was kind of like hinting at maybe she shouldn't say this, and then she just didn't care. But that's just pure speculation, so, like, I don't have any proof on that. But, like, he does have a point of being like, you know, if I was running a news show, I wouldn't someone who was, like, pro-Israel to be on that show, or, like, a Zionist to be on that show. Same, like, I wouldn't expect, like, Majority Report, the Sam Cedar show, to have a Zionist on there. They brought that analogy up, too. This is kind of where I've heard about this interview. But they brought up the point, like, we wouldn't hire a Zionist to be on the show because they are very much pro-Palestine. It's also kind of like like the Young Turks. They wouldn't have someone who doesn't think that crime is a big deal on the show as a host, or they wouldn't have someone who thinks that, you know, the fear of trans women in sports is completely overblown. They wouldn't have that. They wouldn't have that person as a host. But, like, I don't know. It's just something kind of, like, ironic about being, like, the whole free speech platform. And then, but at the same time, like, not really going into why she was fired. Like, okay, so it was a difference of opinion. Obviously, because of her takes on, you know, Israel and Palestine. I don't know why he won't just say that. It's a little weird. Also, like, is there really that much of a difference between a platform and a publisher? I mean, well, actually, yeah, because a publisher controls the content as a whole. That's a stupid question. A platform is just you putting the content out on it, and then they kind of regulate it afterwards, kind of like YouTube. YouTube's not a publisher. I don't have to go to, like, an editor or, like, creative figure in YouTube and be like, hey, can I publish this? And then they just say yeah. But, like, if that was the case, how did Candace get any of her points across of being pro-Palestine on Daily Wire to begin with? I don't know. It's a little messy. But we're just going to continue forward.
you know, a lot of this has happened publicly, but you know, to the extent that the Daily Wire is in fact not a publisher, it is that is in fact not a platform, it is a publisher. That means that there is no moral obligation for the Daily, and there's no free speech problem with the Daily Wire saying we don't wish to pay a particular host, or that host saying I don't wish to work here anymore, because again, there's a parting of the ways that you know is not really open for discussion at this point.
Does it surprise you that so many people, even on our side of this, are confused about that as it relates to free speech and quote-unquote cancel culture? Like severing a business tie, as long as you're not throwing someone in jail, they're able to be everywhere else, is not
I'm not super surprised at the
culture,
controversy,
yeah.
honestly, because to a certain extent, I think that there's been a reaction on the right to the excesses of the left. So because what the left did is they said that the Overton window ought to be closed so tight that no one can get inside the Overton window. Basically, if you're to the right of Hillary Clinton, you can't be allowed inside
Welcome
the Overton
to my
window.
world,
Yes,
brother.
exactly. and not just with regard to platforms, but with regard to publishers. So, for example, this week, NBC News deciding that Ronna McDaniel was too much for them. Ronna
Right.
McDaniel can't work at NBC News. The sacred halls of NBC News must not be sullied by the former head of the RNC. Jen Psaki, however, can have a show on MSNBC despite being the press secretary for the White House 5 seconds ago. Right? The right's response to that is, I think, correct to say you guys have shut the Overton window too tight. But I think some elements of the right have basically said there is no Overton window. The Overton window should be completely exploded with regard not just to platforms, with which I kind of agree, but with regard to publishers. So NBC News not only has an obligation to hire Ronna McDaniel, NBC News has the obligation to hire Alex Jones, for example.
Right,
I
which
don't think
just
that's
makes
true.
no sense at a business level beyond free speech.
don't know. Maybe that's just a double standard. Like, oh, it doesn't make sense for them to fire the person, of the RNC, but we get to fire this person if we want. I don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable of what's going on with MSNBC, so I can't really talk on that front. But to me, I think he's trying to get away from what exactly people on the right are mad about. It's just, your people, like, the whole thing about the right is they, big talking point they like to make is freedom of speech. Like, you're not allowed to say anything anymore. So firing someone because they have a point that you don't agree with, it kind of goes against that. Because unlike many, like, if she got fired for being pro-abortion, honestly, I think there would still be some outcry. I don't think it would be as much because there are Republicans who aren't like anti-abortion, honestly. So I don't think that would be that much of an issue. I think there would be more support for them, but I think there will still be a sizable crowd, at least like a vocal minority of conservatives who would still be pretty outspoken of, this is bullshit, why did she get fired for this? But like maybe being like if she was anti-gun or something like that, like anti, Second Amendment as they like to put it, shit like that. Or like if she advocated for stricter gun laws, or supported drag queens and shit like that, like they would probably see that as reasonable. But no, I think with this one, it's just kind of like maybe it's like this is an issue that not a lot of conservatives really, not a good amount of conservatives. I don't know, because like the whole thing with like being pro-Palestine, pro-Israel is not exactly a left and right issue, because there are liberals who are Zionist. So it's more of like a Zionist, Zionist, or just not being a Zionist take. And that's very bipartisan as well. Like there are conservatives who don't care for Zionism. They are pro-Palestine. We see that with Candace Owens, but it comes from a certain place of anti-Semitism. But it's very different. So maybe if they fired her due to something more that was based on like whether you were on the left or on the right, maybe there wouldn't be as much outcry. But because this is a bipartisan issue that when it comes to Israel-Palestine, it's gonna create some controversy on your side as well.
I mean, there's a reason that networks exist.
Right, they have
comprises
editorial positions.
Yeah.
Daily Wire has a very strong editorial position on a wide variety of issues. And by the way, I should say that there are a lot of people who are suggesting this is about disagreements over Israel. I mean, I can safely say it is not about disagreements over Israel, to the extent that, without reference to Candace at all here, Matt Walsh has taken the position that America ought not be involved in the Middle East at all. Matt Walsh's position so far.
But that's not being anti-Israel. That's just saying we shouldn't be. That's just, anti-foreign affairs type stuff. That's not criticizing Israel. Candace has been. She has been directly criticizing Israel. Matt Walsh is just like, I don't care. It's a very centralist take. It's not. It's what he's saying and what Candace is saying is very different. Matt Walsh just saying, oh, I don't care, isn't being anti-Israel. So that's just bullshit. That's just his kind of way to, scurry out of there. It's a nothing answer.
Far as I understand it, and I've talked to him about it, is that Israel, in a conflict between Israel and Hamas, Israel is obviously a more moral party than the genocidal terrorist group Hamas, but also it's very far away. He doesn't care, and it doesn't involve America. That's just a pure isolation.
So he is pro-Israel. He doesn't care, but he does think that Israel is right. So it's nothing like Candace.
His position, I disagree with it. I think it's wrong. I think that it's short-sighted. But again, he's on our platform. That is well within the range of acceptable discourse at the Daily Wire. So the notion that you have to mirror my exact perspectives on what Israel is doing in Gaza is obviously not true, based on the roster of hosts that we currently have. There are a lot of other factors, obviously, at play.
If you're looking for more
That's
honest
just a
and
nothing
thoughtful...
answer. Andrew Schulz has also been going after him on this. At least a little bit. This is a clip from his podcast Flagrants. I don't know how much we're really going to cover this. Probably not much, so we can get to other stuff, but we're just going to go right into it.
Yeah, there's a great interview where Ben is justifying why he fired Candace.
Yeah.
And
The one with Rubin?
yes, the one with Rubin is great. We should even pick it up and watch it. But what's funny is that, and I don't know the extent to which Ben is criticized. I know he's very critical of media and media being biased.
Yeah.
But before you have a media platform, it's very easy to critique media. It's very easy to go, look at New York Times, look what you do, and look at Washington Post, look what you do, and you're censoring free speech, you're for censorship. In this conversation, he makes the argument for censorship. He calls it something else.
Yeah, I forget the term. I have it in my phone.
But I don't even think he's using the term right. But he's basically like, there's a window of ideas we accept.
Yes.
And we accept ideas between this, I guess this is, if I get window, you're looking like this. So we accept ideas between here and here. And anything outside of that window, well, you're fireable. That's censorship.
What?
But
Yeah.
he's acting as if this is like a justified reason for firing people when you built your identity and platform off of no censorship and freedom of
Yes.
speech and facts don't care about your feelings and all this shit.
It's also funny that window happens to end where his beliefs end.
I am
Isn't it
shocked
interesting?
that you would say
Wait,
that.
not being pro-Israel, that's where the window ends. That's also
What?
your specific personal belief.
What?
So, I just
So
don't
you
see.
can't have an opinion on your platform that is not pro a country that is not ours?
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
crazy. I wish.
So wait, is
I
the
wanna-
Daily Wire an American media platform or is it an Israeli media platform? I'm just asking.
This guy's cooking.
And here's the thing, like, maybe, people would be like, why are you bringing this up? Like, because first of all, I'm not bringing it. This has been like a very big clip throughout this whole discussion. Because the thing about Andrew Schulz and like this is that it gets to a normie audience. They're just kind of regular guys who don't really care about much of this stuff. Because this guy is just like, Schulz doesn't, like, he talks politics sometimes, but for the most part, he's just a regular dude. Like, he's a comedian, and people just want to hear him say funny stuff. So this reaching to Schulz and him talking about it, it gets to that normie audience, and it does devalue Ben Shapiro in a big way, because a lot of guys are going to see that and be like, have a very normie take of being like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. You're free speech unless someone doesn't agree with you. Like, it's weird. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm just, no, if the rule is, I'm just saying, if the rule is you cannot be critical, because he has no problem being very critical of America.
Yep.
He's critical of the left in America. Left is half the country. You have no
half.
problem eviscerating half
That's
of the
the
country.
current party in power.
But you can't criticize Israel as a country. That's just another country, unless you're saying, and you're clearly admitting, that the Daily Wire is an arm of the Israeli, I guess, media or propaganda machine. Is that? Oof. Are you manipulating the religious right in America? Are you manipulating the right-wing conservatives in America and selling them country western movies and putting on your little cowboy hat and fake moving to Nashville so that you could take all their money and then in the process restricting free speech, one of the core tenets of the American identity? Ben.
Benjamin.
What is happening? There's trouble in paradise. What shall we do?
Dub, what's wrong? Are you going to bring this?
We'll probably just. There is another clip that I do want to share this, but it's with a tweet from Candace Owens saying that she wants to debate Ben Shapiro on Israel and the current definition of anti-Semitism. Can someone make that happen? And I would definitely like to see that. But there's just a little clip. Andrew Schulz realizes Ben Shapiro is only good at debating college liberals and can't win debates about serious competition.
Candace,
Yeah.
she's not
Yeah.
afraid of nobody. She will say whatever the
She's
fuck she wants to
smart
say.
enough.
She will debate any
Yeah.
single person. She'll go out there and do it, right? Ben Shapiro is debating college kids.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest,
Yeah.
right? It's like anytime he debates somebody who's like worthy, he either gets washed or bare minimum stalemate. I've never seen him actually win a debate against somebody who's like educated in the matter.
I'm definitely going to be interested in that. I don't know. I'm just kind of enjoying the drama. It's, nice to see. But at the end of the day, this is a saga that's still kind of going on. It's very obvious why they fired her, but still, it's, I just like to see some infighting with the right. And I think it's a good look. Honestly, at the same time, I'm still worried of Candace getting a bigger platform because even though she's pro-Palestine, she's still very anti-Semitic in other ways. And even outside of that, she also just has very disgusting views when it comes to a lot of things. So, but I'm more than down to see a Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens debate and see exactly where that goes. But we'll never know. I won't be surprised if Ben just kind of runs from it. And still. But yeah, that's where I'm just gonna kind of leave it off there.